We're in Professor Gimli da Vinci's workshop, presumably because we had the set made for last season's finale and we want to get as much use out of it as possible. This time Janeway's giving Seven a quick lesson in sculpture, though the purpose of the lesson is really an introduction to the concept of unproductive activities. As a Borg drone, the idea of recreation was shunned as inefficient. Now, Janeway's trying to explain how diversions can help individuals rest and recharge their brain, and that this wasted time can, paradoxically, result in a net gain. Bugger all that though, because Seven's taking a look at Da Vinci's ornithopter, which most historians agree he never physically built by the way, but let's ignore that for now. The image triggers a flashback sequence where she's running through a Borgified area whilst being chased by a large bird, presumably the titular raven. To sick bay, where we discover this is the third time she's had these flashbacks. When she tells the dog that she was experiencing fear, he suggests this could be a post-traumatic stress response. Interestingly, this is challenged by Seven. She doesn't see the Borg as threatening as it's all she's ever really known, so a fear response doesn't make sense to her. Perhaps seeing this as a chance to introduce her to other negative emotions, the doc tells her that her human stomach is now working, and she should go and eat something from Neelix. While she does that, Janeway's called to the bridge by Chakotay so she can negotiate with some aliens who've been a bit wary about letting us through their space. Maybe they've heard about the multiple times we've trespassed before. Their delegation is vocally unenthusiastic, but their bosses have agreed to our request. Sort of. We can pass, but only by taking the sort of route that would make even the most corrupt taxi driver blush. And there's a speed limit, and we can't talk to anyone, and we'll submit to inspections multiple times. Janeway's appreciative, but hopes we can negotiate something that's a little more not complete arse. Speaking of complete arse, here's Neelix. He waxes poetic about the importance of a good meal before telling her he'll be preparing steamed shadrakab. As he spoons some food into a pan and begins frying it, Seven tells him that some of his species were assimilated by the Borg. It's hardly the best line for making friends, but thankfully, Neelix receives everything short of getting his lungs stolen with a smile. Looks like he's taken it upon himself to guide her through the process of eating, too, which, to be fair, is rather thoughtful, given that it's a new experience for her. Unfortunately, despite a promising start, it all goes a bit wrong when she has another flashback. A Borg robo-flower sprouts on her hand, she tells Neelix he'll be assimilated, then throws him to the floor and leaves. Whilst harsh, this does still qualify as one of the top 10 reviews of his cooking. Seven's violence interrupts our negotiations with the wire helmet aliens to plot a faster route through their space. That was going terribly anyway, so it's no great loss. Tuvok tells us Seven's been a teeny bit punchy towards some of the other crew. She's now on Deck 6, and Janeway orders it to be sealed, while Tuvok pops down there with the security team. She's hearing voices and hallucinating, believing there to be 2 Borg drones in her way. They're actually security guards, and one of them poops a bit of yellow at her. She's not asked, and a second bit of pooping is met with a shield, as are the 2 shots into her back as she walks past them. Janeway receives the news and tells them to do that rotating gun poop thing to get past Seven's shields, but the lead wire helmet alien overhears and is deeply unimpressed by us having a pet Borg. Claims that she's been freed from them fail to convince, which I think is fair given that she's now attacked 4 people. She's as bothered by Voyager's lockdown as she was by guns, and walks straight through a containment field. Chakotay tells her she's going for the armory on Deck 6, and she emerges with a rifle. Tuvok's attempts to stop her can be best described as bloody awful, and she makes her way to the shuttle bay. She finds a stronger barrier in front of the door, so instead ignores it and teleports inside a shuttle before scarpering into the territory of those wire helmet aliens. It's fair to say they're deeply unimpressed with events so far, telling us they'll track Seven through their sophisticated sensor net and destroy her. Oh, and we can sod off too. Tangentially, it occurs to me that manufacturing this whole setup would be a good way of getting your hands on someone else's tech, whilst also appearing blameless. We're in the cargo bay where Seven's charging port is kept and scanning it for anything a bit screwy. B'Elanna finds a box with some wires on it and says it's a Borg hard drive holding some log entries. Kim says he's been learning how to read Borg, which, sure, why not, so Janeway tells him to go translate them. Oh, and the Doctor found something odd with the teleport logs when Seven nicked a shuttle, so we're off to have a chat with him. On the way, Chakotay suggests this betrayal may have been inevitable, that her Borg nature was simply too strong to overcome. Perhaps the argument of immutable natures would be more convincing if it wasn't coming from someone who's already switched sides with the Marquis twice. Janeway's unconvinced, saying Seven had been making progress. She also thinks the timing makes no sense. There are no Borg ships in the area, and 10,000 light-years in a shuttle to get back to their space isn't likely. Perhaps the Doc has the answer. He tells us the teleporter logs show her Borg mini-bots have reactivated and made new implants. He's not sure why, but he's made a spray to reverse it. Obviously, this would require finding her first. To that end, Tuvok thinks a bit of trespassing is in order. We can kind of get through the wire helmet alien scanner thingy, but only in a shuttle. It's not like we've never invaded the territory of other species before, so Janeway gives Tuvok and Paris the nod to go after her, with the understanding that they're allowed to kill her a bit if the Doc's spray doesn't work. That's assuming she's not already dead by the time they catch her. After another flashback, Seven reaches a group of wire helmet alien ships. They tell her to stop, and she responds by first pooping at them, then ramming them with Borgified shields, knocking them out of the way. Tuvok detects the pooping and the disabled, but not destroyed, ships, and catches up with Seven. We can't teleport her out because science, so Tuvok visits her instead. His attempt goes a bit pear-shaped when she preempts his ambush with one of her own, knocking the spray away, then giving him a taste of his own Vulcan sleep massage. She has significantly less patience for Paris, pooping some yellow at him and leaving him adrift. A little later, Tuvok wakes up in the shuttle with Seven. He's dissuaded from further shenanigans by a force field, which Seven warns him is quite potent, whilst also incorrectly referring to him as Lieutenant. We'll chalk that one up to Borg mini-bots affecting her brain rather than inaccurate writing. She says she's going to rejoin the Borg and that she's following a homing beacon of sorts. That's rather curious given that Voyager didn't find any of their ships, almost as though someone was sending out a false signal. Thing is, she's not gone full murder Borg yet. She even says she'll send Tuvok back with the shuttle instead of assimilating him. He tries to reason with her but is unsuccessful, and she continues the journey. Over on Voyager, Janeway's trying to figure out what may have prompted Seven's behaviour by sleeping in her bed, which is a bit weird when you think about it. Kim arrives with those logs, which turn out to be a diary of sorts for Seven. Mostly mundane stuff, but recently mentioning the hallucinations or perhaps dreams she's had. They're always about fleeing the Borg, and any mention of the bird is also accompanied by fear. Janeway uses the description to guess at the type of bird, and the word raven seems to give her an idea. On the bridge, she tells Chakotay to scan for Federation ships other than our shuttles, and gets ready to invade the wire helmet alien space. Back in the shuttle, Seven's parking up next to a moon of some sort. She says the signal's coming from it, and she's off to be re-assimilated. Except she's afraid, which is illogical. Tuvok offers to go with her and see what's there, increasingly unconvinced that she'll find what she expects. She agrees and frees him. Voyager's on the way too and contacts Paris. He's able to tell Janeway where Tuvok and Seven went and that the moon has a weird signal coming from it. Janeway will come and grab him, but some of the wire helmet aliens are incoming as well. Down on the moon, Tuvok and Seven are tracking the signal. It leads them to a partially assimilated Federation ship, one that's been here for nearly 20 years. You know, around the same time Seven was assimilated. And she says it seems familiar. We find the source of the signal and disable it, stopping the beeps so Seven can have her flashbacks in peace. Images of her parents being dragged away by Borg drones, her hiding beneath the console so they wouldn't find her, being taken. She finds the dedication plaque for the ship, and we discover it's called the Raven. The wire helmet aliens think that's quite enough backstory for one episode and start pooping at the wreckage. Voyager turns up and asks them to stop, but they're ignored, which is fair enough considering we're trespassing. Janeway doesn't see things quite the same way and powers up our weapons. Paris has managed to find his way here too, so I guess he got some sort of propulsion working again. He's trying to scan for Seven and Tuvok, but our old friend Interference is stopping him. Maybe that's being caused by the hull, as they appear to be trapped due to all that pooping. A bit of running about confirms this, and they start digging their way out. Back on Voyager, we've buggered up a couple of the wire helmet alien ships, but there are more incoming. Maybe those ones will choose to fire at Voyager instead of the wreckage. It won't really matter, as Tuvok and Seven managed to leave the ship. I guess they went in via a different door, despite Seven's dialogue suggesting there was only a single hatch, as I don't see how else they could have missed the name on the side of the ship and prevented spoiling the reveal from that plaque. Anyway, the ship starts falling off the cliff as Paris teleports them away. They dock with Voyager and we leg it as the wire helmet aliens give chase, so that's another Delta Quadrant species the Federation is now at war with. Later, Janeway finds Seven in Professor Gimli da Vinci's workshop, but he's still not there, so I guess we didn't have the budget for a cameo. Regardless, Seven's trying to process how different her life might have been had she not been taken by the Borg. Janeway suggests reading up on her parents, who she says are in their database because they were quite well known for being unconventional scientists. Seven defers, saying she may do in the future, as we fly away. There are a couple of interesting bits in this one, so let's take a look. The lesser of the two is Seven's dismissal of a PTSD diagnosis, as she doesn't fear the Borg. It's a rather deft reminder that her point of reference is so fundamentally different to everybody else's, and a nod to how your upbringing can influence your outlook in ways you might not even consider. The other, and more serious point, is how Seven acts when remembering her experience on the Raven. She switches to childlike mannerisms and patterns of speech when recounting her assimilation. This ties into something I said at the end of the last episode, Revulsion. Seven is essentially a child. She may have gathered raw data on what it's like to be an individual, but that's no substitute for experience, something that she was robbed of when assimilated. This is why I said Kim's interest was morally questionable. An objective analysis of emotions such as personal desire cannot prepare you for experiencing it, because emotion is not objective. We saw that again here as, when faced with fear, the analytical facade is shattered and she regresses to her experience. It takes Vulcans decades to master their own emotions, but mastering them isn't the same as not having any, despite how many people conflate the two. To repress your emotions is not the same as controlling them, and, until Seven knows enough about hers to make informed decisions, any act which touches on them should be weighed with the greatest of care. End of episode.
Hello, it's Space Dog again. You're probably wondering why I'm the computer for the starship Voyager. Well, if anyone ever asks you what happens if you take a piss when you're being teleported, now you know the answer. It's not all bad though. My skin condition's cleared right up for one thing, on account of me not having any. I just have to remember to not try and lick me balls, or I'll tear the ship in half and kill all the crew. Woof.